talk, they have to hold the recorder. I'm just kidding.
But I'm glad you're.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to keep
Gotta
it
keep it
straight.
light. Come on.
So is everybody good with that? Okay, so the chair, whoever's chairing will call on you unless the department heads are giving their presentation and then they will call on you. Doug.
I'd like to suggest that we try that and not make it permanent, just in case it drags us down too much or doesn't work out. But let's give it a try.
We can always try something else. But give it a try. Sure. Okay,
Another
Yeah.
thing, just so you don't think I don't like you, I have a hard stop at 4:30 today. I need to leave to go to a funeral. Fortunately, not my own, but.
all right, so. John, are we gonna go straight into Scott?
Yeah,
Or,
and we picked Scott as the guinea pig because we don't, this will be, it's kind of gonna be driven by what the group wants to do. So he's our the first person.
Okay. Well, that 45 slides, it's about an hour.
I'm here for whatever it takes.
yes,
Don, you have the yellow sheet, right? Are you gonna pull that up or everyone has it in front of you?
I do have them and I will pull them up.
So the planning department's budget it's very limited in the discretionary funds that it has. In fact, the only real discretionary funds the planning department does are subscriptions and memberships and our travel and training. That's essentially the piece of the budget that can really flex. There's one more that you'll see as I run down through this. That is third-party fees or professional services. We're a self-sufficient department. We don't reach out to third-party planners or anybody right now as far as any plan reviews go. But there are years when we apply for technical assistance grants through Wasatch Regional Council or maybe UDOT, who provide technical planning assistance. And in that case, you might collect $100,000 for the match of $10,000. So it's a really good leverage for the city. We received one of those last year. We're currently under contract working through it right now on an economic development study and an active transportation plan. That's what the $15,000 professional services budget was last year. That has been stripped out. So that's on my spreadsheet, line item 48, but it's 1055 310 professional services. That's a big reduction in the planning department's budget from last year to this year. And then we had 2 full-time employees and a part-time, not part-time, a half employee in the planning department, half employee in the building department. We lost our full-time planner, Brandon Bell. He's moved on to Pleasant View City as the planning director down there. So we have an open position. The plan right now, at least my plan, was to fill that position no sooner than July 1 of this year, and even potentially make that January 1 of 2024, depending on what the economy does. So if the economy stays where it is right now, 1.5 full-time people in the planning department it's plenty to keep us busy, and we're not extremely overwhelmed with it. But just know that we would replace that position, and that's a general fund position. So that's paid out of sales tax revenues, not held in this budget. So those, all of the, all of our salaries, all of our benefits, everything is held. Jamie can, show you where that is generally, which leaves us with, this pretty small budget. So if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to take them.
So you've been really busy the last few years, have you not, with everything, the growth that's going on?
Yes, in fact, the planning department was extremely busy. They had a part-time planner who was the planning director, who I think was doing like full-time-ish work as a part-time employee type of thing, Rob Scott. So the city saw the growth kind of writing on the wall. I've been here for just under 2 years, since 2021, and is the city's first full-time planning director.
Because of the growth probably that we needed,
Right.
yeah.
Yep.
But now it may taper off, you're thinking, because of the recession potential.
A little bit, I wrote out 2008 to 10 in my career early on and watched planning departments that had really ballooned up get, cut back. So I'm pretty cautious about hiring full-time employees because I think that municipal jobs generally are pretty safe. And we want to be responsive to the public need and not just hire somebody to fill a position. But also it comes down to the priority of what the city wants to do. There's only so much time when you're processing short range applications. That's all the stuff that comes in on a daily basis, like land use permits or conditional use permits, site plans, subdivisions, versus the long range stuff. What's the city's vision for the next 20 years? And for the planning director historically, and I think what my role is kind of that further looking type of work and the economic development work and working with developers. Because we still have 20,000 people or so, growth to happen in the city. If we hit our build out numbers that the county has us estimated at about 40,000. So we've got a lot of growth left to happen in the city and just want to make sure that we're prepared for that.
Next question. Did you gain additional responsibilities with your new title?
Yeah, so John has transitioned some of the property management stuff that he was doing as the city manager over into my role. And then we have a citizen-led economic development committee, but I'd like to be a little bit more involved in economic development decisions. So I'd be discussions with businesses that might want to locate to the city, or being proactive and reaching out to businesses that we may have, see a need for our residents.
They have been having your quarterly meetings, haven't they?
So I guess I have a general question that might apply to all of this stuff, but when it comes to office supplies, cell phones, computers, is there a general thing or is it just basically you get what you want?
Yeah, I mean, we
Separately,
used to do a lot in the planning department because the state mandated notices and they're bringing some of those printed notice requirements back. We put some of that on the applicant to bring us stamped envelopes, for instance, but we'll prepare and print the notices. So you see in here, I have like postage that was 900 was then 500. And I bet last year we used like $100 of postage and it's very small anymore. But that ebbs and flows depending on what the state says we have to do. And then office supplies, same thing. We're almost entirely paperless. We now accept all of our applications online and review, comments, everything. So printing, large map format, map printing, all of that is way, way down. So that's been a flat budget item at $1,000. And I bet we don't even scratch the surface of that typically for the planning department for Kai and I.
So I think the question maybe was, what about these common items? You're saying that, I mean, all of the departments would be using those. Why wouldn't you use economies of scale to pool those together and not put separate ones in each of the departments' budgets?
So we actually do. So most of the time when we're ordering like paper, we're buying reams of paper, boxes of paper, we actually allocate them out to all the funds. So, and same thing with
So that's
envelopes.
just their assessed portion
So,
then?
yes, so, some departments have different needs for like envelopes, like in the finance department, we have tinted windows that we need. And so there are those recorders, they have like special paper they need to have their records on. So there are different needs for each department.
So, but yeah, so what you're saying is that each department doesn't go off and buy 7,000 Post-it notes.
No.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And I guess that goes same for cell phone. I mean, you don't have Verizon, T-Mobile, you don't have.
I believe everybody is on T-Mobile.
Everybody's on.
Or you get a reimbursement. So like I have single cell phone, personal cell phone,
Oh, gotcha.
and then there's a reimbursable from the city as opposed to carrying two phones.
And then for computers, I guess the same thing. Is there a central IT thing or is it, okay,
Yes, we have central IT that helps us direct when our computers need to be changed out.
refresh or whatever?
The $800 that we have in here is for the purchase of a new computer to set up a station when new employee comes, because Kai assumed Brandon's computer, which was new. Kai's computer was old. It's been transitioned out. So we're short one computer right now.
So is there an IT guy or someone that's a cybersecurity dude or something? Okay.
Yeah, we contract with TechServe. So we have and we share him among a number of cities, but he's generally available. I don't know if I can say.
point.
So once it's gone to the person we interact with them, we'll have to go through the chair, every time, right?
Right.
So the postage hike, where stamps are gonna start costing, was it 60 cents instead of 55 or something like that? We've taken that into account.
Yeah, we mail so few things anymore. All of the land use decisions at the state level used to require noticing within certain distances of you, and that's been really pared back. There's a central state public meeting notice website now that they try to push things to. We post physically on site in the city, so there's like 10 locations in the city that we post, so we don't do very much direct mailing now. Has to be a really specific land use decision to have a direct mailer anymore.
Good. Thank you.
So what are stuff that you want?
So for me, the biggest thing is travel and training. I mean, that's a great question. We try to allocate a national conference level to planning director. We had Brandon Bell's going to go to a CNU, a Congress Urbanism conference this year. And so we have some extra budget this year that we may or may not end up using. And we provide that to our planning commission members too, to go to the local American Planning Association conference. So that to me is the biggest piece, is just, you hire well-trained, well-educated people. You want to make sure that they continue to be well-trained and well-educated.
Well, and there's also, you want to steal good ideas.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, seriously, I mean, that's the only way that you sort of explain that.
That explains your budget item there, that's 76% up.
Yeah, and that went up because we added, you had Utah, I added Utah League of Cities and Towns, and the City Management Association Conference. Those are other really good local conferences. I probably won't attend ICMA, but ULCT, Utah League of Cities and Towns, does a lot. They're our legislative arm that deals with land use issues and really anything municipal issue between the legislature and the cities. So being aware of what's happening there at their conferences is critical. There's 2 APA conferences locally each year. There's a spring, a fall, and I took out the AICP exam. Rob had that in there. That's the certified planners exam that may come back in the future, but yeah, we added 1 extra, so there's opportunity for people to go to a national conference.
So is there ICMA dues that are?
Not for me. I'm not ICMA. That's,
so
yeah, that would be like John's ICMA. And but up in the first, subscriptions and memberships, the city pays all of our American Planning Association member dues, and then that reduces the conference for each essentially by the amount of the dues. So you pay it either way.
Scott, when I looked over this and I saw that the biggest item on here was travel and training. I'm wondering what options there might be to reduce that without cutting, the quality and what you need for your jobs. Just a little personal experience is that in my past lives in industry, I've had a couple of certifications and I paid for them myself. I took the test, I took the class. It was a better employee, marketable, if I can put it that way. And generally speaking, the companies that I work for don't send you places, And I don't know what the environment is here, if you feel that the city is to pay for all these travel and training because it's competitive, because everybody else does, or what would be the idea of having the employees get their own? So this is how it is for now.
Yeah, it's a great question. I've worked 4 different places in Utah, and everywhere pays for your training. So Davis County, Clearfield City, North Ogden City, and Regional Council. And the expectation has never been that you pay for your own training. And it's your opportunity to go and interface with your peers, and the local conferences at minimum are pretty inexpensive, $700 per person. There's some travel in there assumed because one conference is typically somewhere in the south, like this spring it's in Vernal. There's a few $100 and yeah, we can just drive. Yeah, drive.
Hotel.
Yep, we can have access to a city car typically. So it's gas money basically to go out. But other than private sector and those private sector firms that have like, I want to go to the architecture conference or landscape architecture conference, they might send them to planning one, but they may self-select to go to another. So the consulting firms pay to go because they drum up business. Most of the municipalities pay for their employees to attend these, and it's not a burden on the employee.
So you said 1.5 full-time heads is what you have
Right now.
equivalents, I guess, yeah.
And Nate will tell you all about Kai's other half in the building department.
He's expensive. Well, I think that's very smart thinking. I appreciate that on the, you don't often hear where cities are seeing the logic and cutting, holding off hiring another employee because they see that it might be slowing down. That's the kind of thinking I think we like to see. So,
And that's a huge savings. I mean, even a first year planner, by the time you have the salaries and benefits, that's like $110,000 together.
yeah, that makes this stuff look small.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're saving $100,000 this year and not employing that person. And then it's been really helpful to have Kai part-time, and planning departments don't generally pay for themselves. You just can't collect enough fees to pay the employee's time, and it's a critical position to do this long-term planning that you just don't collect the money back on. So to have Kai be reimbursed by building fees that are associated with the time he spends in building permits, reviewing them, and then he also goes out and inspects is really, really helpful for the budget.
I'm sorry, with you taking on these extra responsibilities, I guess part of my concern is that you're going to overload yourself before you feel like you can ask for somebody else to help. Do you have someone that's going to kind of stay on top of that with you so that you're not working 60
Yeah.
hours a week and feeling like,
Sure.
oh, it's a budget, I can't ask for help.
Right. I mean, I'll lean back on John definitely when we need to, and that stuff comes and goes. I mean, right now, John was doing multiple like by title jobs, right? And so this is just really to help shave some of that off of his plate. And again, it'll just come down to priority. When we have a lot of land use applications, where you have paying applicants and residents, that's the priority you have. And when there's less of that, you start to think more about strategic property management and what the city can do. So it comes and goes. Right now, it's not overwhelming. There might be a time that I come down to Jamie and I say, I'm ready to hire you. And if interest rates dip, then the building will come back. We have lots available for building right now. We have land developers who have contacted the city, and it's like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Some of them are pulling back and others are leaning in. So we just don't know. But 6 months, you can kind of gut something out for 6 months. That'd be like the hiring process timeframe. So if we had to wait till July, we have some problem. If we get to July, it's a really busy fall, then we know we're getting, first of the year's coming and get some relief.
Because I know we're all about budget and cutting budget, but I don't think it's fair to overwhelm the workers at the expense of cutting the budget. You need to have what you need to function. That's my opinion.
I didn't think it was cutting the budget, though, but anyway, it was making sure that we are allocating things to the correct. Anyway, but we need to watch time. That's also what I was looking at.
Just quickly, can you tell us what all the acronyms are? APA, ULCT, ICMA, AICP?
Yeah, so AP is the American Planning Association. That's the organization I belong to as a professional planner. AICP is American Institute of Certified Planners. That's if you're certified. ULCT is Utah League of Cities and Towns. That's our legislative policy arm. ICMA is International City Management Association.
I have a more generic question and comment. I was wondering about the actuals for the basis of estimate. Obviously, we're in the middle of FY 2023, so we don't really have the full actuals. I'm assuming we have actuals for FY 2022. And how do those inform this? Because I'm not seeing, I mean, in some of them, you're actually giving us some basis of estimate, like, down in travel and training, planning commission, Utah APA at $480 each.
Yeah, so.
But I guess I was looking for, and I'm sorry, it's not just, it's all the
Sure,
sheets, but more background detail to the basis of estimate, I guess is what I was looking for. I don't know about anybody else.
I thought that same thing.
Yeah, and
What did we do last year?
So most of
Shapes
them
what we
came in
use.
about 80% of their budgets. But as I think Bill stated
Yeah, he said that.
last time, that we try not to cut budgets. This is a planning tool. Everything doesn't go as planned.
So are these budget numbers that the last year's are budgeted amounts?
So these are budgeted amounts, yes.
Yeah, but I would say, well,
What was
you don't want to punish somebody because they didn't spend it. Obviously, oh, you don't get any now because you didn't spend any. But it does at least say, well, what's the history of this spending, Did we spend, $300 one year and $800 another year? Just to try to see what the average or what the trend is.
That's a good question. I haven't done a trend line. I mean, like the APA National is in Philadelphia. And so I looked at what flights to Philadelphia were, the hotel conference, the per diems, and it was just under $3,000 was the estimate that I got. And then as far as the budget itself goes, like say that line item, 1055 230 is $9,900, $9,975. It's unlikely that all 7 planning commission members will bite on going to the APA conference. They have full-time jobs. They don't have time to go and attend a multi-day conference. So that money, like if the APA National ends up being $3,200, you know that you're going to have a little bit of that savings there. But good question on like trend line and what we've done in the past. Because I don't think the city has typically sent somebody national every year. It might have been every other year. And then COVID threw a whole bunch of everything on the travel and training.
2 questions, if I can get a 2 for here.
Make it fast. Time's going.
What about this $500 for an open house?
Yes, the city right now is working on a general plan update. We did the land use map last year, and that's just for notifying the residents of the city. If we have a +1 mailer go into city bill, we have some money that's been allocated for what's it called? It's a software that allows us to do polling.
Oh, flash vote.
Yeah, so flash vote software. So it's money that's allocated for if we need to print some large format maps, if we bring the public in to talk about the general plan and the update that we're doing.
So wouldn't that come under postage?
Maybe, I mean, it can come, it's money that we will spend specifically related to open house for the general plan.
So it's not like we're having an open house, everybody come and we're providing punch and cookies and everybody stands around and talks. It's not that kind of an open house.
No, and if it was, we'd bring like 1 tin of cookies, unless you can get everyone in your neighborhood to come. You're not gonna have-
Okay, so expenses related to BYOC.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Cookie.
it's probably some basic printing. It's not gonna be a whole lot. We'll look at electronic. We had a conversation with planning commission last week about ways to get the public involved and interested in what we're doing. So I think mostly it'll be electronic communication.
And my second one is not really COVID related, but COVID, in addition to kind of punishing us, it taught us some things. It kind of forced us to think of new ways of doing things. And back on the travel and training, places that would do, remote training, and spare you the cost of going, although it's nice to, travel and go and all that, but would consider some electronic instead of flying somewhere and having hotels and all that.
Yeah, I don't think any of these ones have all gone back in person. So the APA conference, they did a remote, and then fall of 2021, after I come back and got hired here, they just went back to in person. There were no more remote opportunities for that training. But there are some general savings. Our regional council, which is located in Salt Lake City, all of their meetings now have a hybrid option for attendance, and they just saw their attendance spike in providing that, because it's a lot easier for me to spend an hour and a half in that meeting from my office than it is to spend 3.5 hours, because I've got to drive an hour there, be at the meeting, drive an hour back. So regionally, I think COVID has been excellent. We also have flexible work schedules. Connie and I both do some work from home time. But yeah, travel and training it's really the one piece of our budget that we're very interested in just maintaining, and it's also the one piece that is kind of on the chopping block, because it's
Yeah. I was thinking of maybe creative ways of fulfilling that in a more efficient way. That's it. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I appreciate your guys' time and interest. Come to the council meeting sometime with me. Chris is there.
And Susan Nance is a little under the weather today, so she's just joining us by Zoom. And so she is here, she's listening, and she'd be happy to talk to you about the recorder budget.
I apologize on not being there in person. Obviously, I've decided to be sick instead, but I'm going to try and do my best with you here today. You can hear me okay? Okay. So the recorder's budget was, we separated it out. Last year was the first year that it was its individual budget. It had previously been lump sum in with the administration. And so kind of going into it, I do have subscriptions and memberships to different groups. As you can see what those are, the Davis Morgan Weaver Recorders Association is our local group where we meet monthly. Utah Municipal Clerks is our state group. And then IIMCA is International Institute of Municipal Clerks Association that oversees all of our certifications. And then kind of tied in with the subscriptions is the travel and training. I attend the UMCA Institute and Academy. And then I attend the annual conference. Those are split in different locations. And so those are that's kind of a lump sum cost of what it costs to go to the training, the travel part, all of it included is how that one is put in. Does anyone have any questions on how that works on my travel and training and subscription memberships?
Are you required to go to those meetings, or are those optional that you choose, the government here chooses?
So the way mine works is some of you might have saw that I was awarded my Master Municipal Clerk. You don't have to have those, but most cities require them because it means that so I have a certified municipal clerk and a master municipal clerk, which means that my training has been about 4 to 6 years on those two different ones. And what happens is a lot of the information I receive is legislative changes, and I have to follow state code very closely on my job. And so there's a lot of changes that when you go to these trainings that you're actually kept up on, and that you make sure you're managing your position as well as the city requirements in a way that are consistent with the state. So I would say it's very important for me to attend those so that we're doing what we're supposed to, I guess you could say.
Do you keep the mayor and the council informed on these changes and things?
It's more or less things like you'll see like the public notices, how the cost has gone down on that. We used to have to notice everything in the paper. And so now we have different rules to where we can just post them in various locations to count for that. There's different there's not necessarily things that affect the council and mayor. It's more just kind of the workings of my position or like Scott said, their land use. There's different things that I tie into that he does for land use and things that I manage for the city.
I guess that makes our city at an advantage when you are trained like that, doesn't it?
I believe so. It's helpful to go and talk to other people as well to see what they're doing and how they handle it, different things, and as things change, because like even John and I will talk about something and him and I will interpret it one way, and then I talk to someone else, and it's helpful to just kind of see what other people interpret it and come up with what we think is the best result for our city. So.
I have a question for you, Susan.
Uh-huh.
Under computer services, maybe I'm asking this question in ignorance of what.
Can you
is-
scroll down, John, so I can see? Thanks.
Oh, I thought she was done and asking questions.
Well, she just asked a great questions on the subscriptions and travel so far.
Okay. I'll hold my question.
We can go, no, it's fine. We can go into computer services. That's fine. If we want to go down to there now. So I can explain what each one of these are. The Unicode meeting agenda management. It helps us create the agendas so that they post and create the link on our websites. Before we had this, it was like we were hyperlinking it onto like Word documents, and it was just basically this has streamlined our process, so it's a cleaner, it's more navigatable, I guess, for people. So that helps us manage our meetings. MVI is our group that we do Laserfish through. Laserfish is how we manage all our records online. We are basically working towards, we still have to have paper as we sign. The mayor and I sign a lot of the things for the city, but then we scan them into a permanent retention place, which is the MVI group, which is Laserfish. And then Granicus is the new one that I'm working towards. I don't know if some of you remember the mayor was kind of wanting to know if we could scale back on some of our minutes, and it was about a year ago. And so I looked into that on how we could do that. And Granicus was the group that I found that would be basically what happens is we go, instead of it all going onto YouTube, we're going to live cast it and it's going to be managed on our website. We found that by putting it on YouTube, we don't have control of the end, who owns it basically. It could have advertisements we don't want. It could be deleted. We don't have any control of when it's on YouTube. So by going to Granicus, it's a live cast software that will actually help us manage those. And we're just barely getting it installed right now. So you'll start seeing it in the next, hopefully, few weeks to a month. Basically, what happens is it will go in to where our agendas are there, and you can go to each agenda item after and just listen to just that section. It's going to be a very transparent website to where you can type in anything you want specifically, and it will help you find different things from different meetings. So I'm in the process of getting that up and running, and that's been a little bit time coming. Do you have any questions about that still, Doug?
Yes, now that I understand what each one is for, this Granicus versus YouTube, if I can call it that.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand what you said that could happen, but have you had actual problems with people with our meetings being deleted or unnecessary advertisements? Have we had problems that this is solving, or are we just trying to come up with an improvement?
It probably mostly an improvement. The biggest thing is we don't own any rights once it goes to YouTube. And if that's how we're trying to store things, they're not manageable from something we don't have access to and we don't control. There's more to this product. It's more just kind of a transparency thing that's going to make it so yes, we own it, but it's also going to be more user friendly for our residents and those looking for things from the city.
So question is are these cloud services, are they providing the storage
Mhm.
and the networking, computer power on these services?
Correct.
Okay, so how far back are you planning to archive like the city's meeting minutes or video? I mean,
We can only start and move forward with it. We'll just have to keep what we have on YouTube now. We can only move forward.
right, but I'm just curious if that means your costs are gonna go up as you have a history and store it longer. Do you know what I'm getting at?
No, that we have,
5 years of, yeah, if you have like 5 years of video stored in a cloud provider, you know, it's gonna get bigger and bigger.
Mhm. No, they've given us a contract for like a 3-year outlook, and then that's where we're at, that it just upgrades a little bit each year, but no, they've said it doesn't change with the amount of storage we have.
Susan, is this Granicus, is it going to be accessible like going to YouTube? You're just going to like Rumble or something like that, where you're going to have a player, people will be able to access the video just like as if they were going to YouTube?
Yes, but it'll be more like there'll be more to it, to where like each item has like the packet items will be attached to it. I can go directly to each item on the agenda. You could go to Eagle Mountain, Utah uses it. If you really want to see something similar, you're welcome to go look at Eagle Mountain. Basically, you can go into each agenda item and say, I only want to listen to the parking discussion they're talking about tonight. You can go into specific items instead of like scanning through trying to listen to each one. It's going to be more intuitive to tying into each agenda item.
Okay, and then on that, is there somebody going to be manually going and setting those, the delineation between the subjects or?
Correct. So just during the meeting, John or I, when we sit up there anyways, we just would timestamp them so that they're captured.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
Susan, when do you anticipate having it completely up and running? And is there going to be any overlap with YouTube and Granicus?
Yes, so we just started to install yesterday actually with our AV team and our IT group. And so we're still kind of in the process of getting kind of the camera, the computer, the sound, everything to capture everything together. And so that's what we're working towards. We'll have to start doing some like practice sessions on that.
And it will still, we'll still broadcast on YouTube. This will just be the official repository of the video will be through
So
Granicus.
the YouTube is not going away.
Right, Zoom and YouTube for the foreseeable future will continue.
So it's the $5,000 is per year.
Correct. And the thought with that is right now you can see we have professional services that include, we have somebody that does our city council meeting minutes and planning commission minutes. Those have been outsourced for, I believe, like 12 plus years. And the thought process is by making it, the state now says if we make it more transparent with the video and making it so it can come through that way, that we can provide less minutes. So it would be more of a structural minutes of what happened with less information in them. And so the thought process would be to not necessarily eliminate the professional services, but to have it to where it offsets more, to where we're not paying as much on that. And then it's going towards Granicus. With it being at the beginning of the process, yes, there is a little bit more cost to build into that. But that's my goal, is to have the professional services costs go down.
Okay.
I have a question about that. I've looked at past meetings, clear back, 10, 20 years as well. Some of them are only audio recordings. And it causes me to think, and you don't have to answer this, Susan, but is there really a value add to having video versus simply audio. And I'm thinking, I've watched, quote unquote, or listened to some of our most recent meetings that are on YouTube. And the audio, the visual, the camera, in my opinion, adds very little. It shows somebody standing up and it shows them talking, but you don't get information from what you see generally. Okay, now there are presentations, I understand, that are presented. But those could be an attachment. And maybe a possible savings would be to go to audio only with, presentations like this, if you're going to show that as an attachment.
So Doug, with that, just to give an example, I listen to a lot of audiobooks. Absolutely love them. My wife cannot stand them because she can't place the different voices as the story progresses. I find it to be a very valuable tool to, when I'm hearing somebody speak, I'll be able to actually notice the movement. Okay, I know it's coming from Mr. Swanson, I know it's coming from the mayor. So if I have a hard time telling the different voices, this would help identify the individual. Just a thought.
And I don't think you're gonna get much difference in cost. It's, space is space, no matter what it is. I know. But storage is cheap, to be honest. I think if you go away from YouTube, so you're not worried about different people putting ads on top of your stuff that, you want, Johnny Walker ads in between, I don't know. I'm just saying, the whole point is to have control of it. And I think that's what they're trying to do.
Is
If
the
there's
city charged
bigger
for
fish to
using YouTube?
No,
So what would be the point of cutting YouTube out then?
They're never-
Well, I know, but that's kind of what Doug doesn't
Oh,
want on
okay.
video. But if the city's not paying to use YouTube, then there's no expense.
Perhaps a hybrid approach where we use YouTube for the visual, for those who are visual listeners, if I can put it that way, and have the audio be the permanent repository.
They have both now, I think. But it's not, what I hear Susan saying is that this Radicus or whatever it is much easier usable for the city and the public.
Right. What we need is a
But it
stenographer.
comes with an expense.
Stenographer.
Well, I've looked at a recent minutes and it was 23 pages long, a single space, it was huge. This is the kind of thing our $10,000 goes for, is we hire some other person, it's not you, Susan, right?
Right.
No,
But we hire somebody to transcribe basically every word of the minutes.
And that's what she
Because
said,
that-
if we go to Granicus, that should cut that cost down because they won't be
It would just
transcribing
be kind
every word.
of a
It's
spectral
over.
thing, it's scheduled, it's-
And Susan, isn't that required? The reason you have minutes is because the state requires it?
correct. And state code now says that if you have this option of kind of a visual, basically I did some research for months and I came back to the council and, made this a suggestion of what I think the future is moving towards, and kind of limiting our minutes, because technically state code says that minutes shouldn't be he said, she says, it should just be substance. And so for years we've done almost a verbatim, which is a lot. And we're trying to kind of balance between a state code option of making it visual, so where somebody can go click on directly what they want to know and actually know what happened in the meeting, versus like my interpretation or the lady who does it, her interpretation of it. And so we're just trying to kind of keep it kind of a cleaner minutes to where then you have the option to actually listen to what happened and control that.
Thank you.
So right now, it will offset more. There's been a little deduction, but we're still, with us being in the middle of it, trying to figure out how that will all come together.
We appreciate you, Susan.
Thank you.
Especially on your sick day.
Is there any other questions on anything specific? We have special books and papers and things that we deal with in our printer that we manage in our office, and some things that We're trying to kind of figure out what the best option with that is. I don't think we'll hit that budget either, but we're still kind of, with it being our second year in this type of budget, trying to kind of bring it all together.
You give an example of services not classified. What are some of the items that fall in that category?
Jamie, could you help describe what's in that?
Well, actually, so, last year, it stems off of last year. So last year we were given a percentage, and that $3,400 ended up in her budget as services not classified. That was the percentage in her budget. It was carried over into this year, and I don't have a reason to take it out, and I don't have a reason to leave it in, and I don't think it was used last year.
Is it kind of like a slush fund though?
No, it's partially to go towards this Granicus group and how it'll all come together, as I was given extra money and it didn't quite come together as quickly as I had hoped. So no, it's definitely not my slush money.
That's right. That's what it was. It was, we didn't know what Granicus was gonna do.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're just kind of waiting for it all to come together, and then hopefully after everything's set, then we'll have a better idea of what will be pulled from that services not classified. I haven't touched it, as you can see, because I'm waiting for it to come together.
We're not done yet.
Well, year to date.
Well, I mean, for next year.
It's $30.
Yeah, but we're not done yet. Like, yeah, like the budget's not done yet. Like, I don't want to take it out just yet. So that's why it's.
But you probably will when you,
Could be, maybe.
you don't, if you can't identify what you're gonna spend it for.
Well, just, Susan, I'm speaking to the group here as well as you. As I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, we were told that the services not classified is more of something to cover unknowns. Not that it's, I think the word slush fund just kind of indicates free for all, willy-nilly, spend whatever you want. But in reality, because you're budgeting against things that could change, that will change, and you don't know everything, so you have to have some cushion. But that's my understanding, it's a.
And it's different for every department. So.
I'd say that's accurate. We're just trying to see how it all comes together with, basically, I haven't even closed out my first year of my own budget. So we're just trying to make sure we capture everything.
And if I may ask one more question, realizing the time is marching on. And I will ask this question maybe one more time for all 7 of these sheets. It's the same question I asked of Scott on the travel and training. I would think maybe we could consider more economical ways to get the same result. If there are self-study or online courses or something that does not involve airfare, hotels that could still give you the certification updates, keep you current. So I'm going to ask that question. You don't have to answer it, Susan, but I would say we should think about that. Are there better ways to get the same result?
Kind of like Scott's, it's not offered fully hybrid. There is portions of it that you could do hybrid, but the other portion you can't. So it not on every conference. I used to go to the national one. I haven't been to the national one since before COVID too. So there's things that I feel like I have done within my travel budget that's reasonable. I try to budget a little high, but I don't believe I'll spend what is budgeted. But I do try and do the hybrid option when I can, and if it makes the most sense for my certification process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you for listening to that kind of generally applicable question.
So, does anyone have anything else for Susan? Can we let her go then? Okay. Thank you very much, Susan.
Thank you.
Jamie, you're up.
All right, finance department. So there's 2 full-time equivalents in the department currently. We're in charge of the budget.
So are there questions or you
So,
still?
yeah, no, go ahead, if there's another question.
I'm just curious, what you do for postage? What do you send out, especially if you're going paperless? What do you send that costs so much?
So we actually have a lease on our postage machine, and so that hits us as well. That's about $1,200 a year. And then, we do mail out quite a bit of checks. We do some ACH, but not as much as I would like to. We have been looking into that with Wells Fargo to see if that's something we can move to as far as doing that. Because, you know, envelopes, cost of ink and checks and all that, it's all involved in there. We're, I don't know where we're at, Brian, sorry, I'm keep looking at you. I think we're like still just waiting for Wells Fargo to get back with us.
Still trying to get them all the information they need.
Yeah.
So.
So, yes, we are looking at going more ACH. It is a scary world out there, so we're going slow, but we're going.
Well, I just have no clue what you mail out. So I was
Yeah, so we
curious.
mail out checks. We, in the past, we used to mail them out weekly. We've gone to bi-weekly, and I think now we're trying to at least try to do the bulk of them monthly so that we're not sending multiple checks to vendors every month, just like one check per month.
What is the banking credit card?
Oh, yes.
Those are our banking fees and credit card fees we have. So there's always a cost of business. And so it is just banking with Wells Fargo. And then we also have credit card fees. So we take like our utility payments, those kinds of things. So it's just all of those fees are involved with banking, whether that's credit card, checking account. We do ACH for payroll, so those charges. We also do lockbox for utility billing, and so those charges. They are, so this is just what applies to the finance department, and so those ones are applied to the enterprise fund. Our
So-
banking fees are about 50 grand a year.
So most of that is because people are paying bills with credit cards.
I
Yeah.
thought they passed don't they
Yeah,
pass the
most of
service?
it.
fee?
So we do pass the service, so our service fee right now is 1.5%. We do pass that along. Our utility billing rate is 0.9, but we cannot charge a fee for that because we're getting what they call a government rate. So we cannot charge a fee for that.
I thought it came out of my checking account. That's why I was wondering if.
So you might be on direct deposit, direct pay, what we call. That is the cheapest way to pay the city. It's where the city initiates the withdrawal from your account.
Maybe just say, that's the only way you can do it. I don't know. I know people don't, everybody doesn't have checking accounts, I get it, but
So you can't say, hey, you know, this is this price, and if you pay with credit card, you're gonna get it dinged with another fee, because it's adding to
We
our.
cannot on the utility side. We do that currently for all the other governmental services.
okay.
I think those credit cards got racket going here.
Oh, definitely.
Do you do Wells Fargo because it's close? I know that there's been in the news with a lot of problems with them. Do any of those problems affect the city?
Not currently, but we do go out for RFP every 5 years. We are on our 4th year. We'll go out next year. And last year, we're trying to also kind of bank within the city. We try to get US Bank and some other, who's the other one? Anyway, to respond to the RFP, and we could only get Science Bank or Wells Fargo. The credit unions that do not offer some of the services that are required for us. Like we have positive pay. And what that means is every time we send out a check, we have to send the bank information on what that check was. And then so the bank matches that. And if it doesn't match up, they reject it. And that's a requirement. And that's what they call positive pay. And again, the credit unions don't offer that.
But you say you do go out for an RFP,
We
request
do
for
our-
proposal, so you invite some competition, say, okay, who wants my business, who's gonna give me the best
Great.
deal for the money, et cetera.
But it ends up being between Zions and Wells. Huh?
You know what, it has the last 2 times I've done it.
Well, we don't have too
So-
many banks in town.
No.
And like you say, it's nice to keep it local too, though.
It is for our treasure. Yeah.
Which goes back to what I think the mayor mentioned is there's a policy question. Do we buy local or do we go for best price, you know? And not that we're going to answer that here, but maybe something we consider in the future. If Bank of Utah, maybe that's down on 5 points, maybe they'll give us a better deal. They jump for the chance and give us a lot better deal. Maybe something to consider for the future.
For sure. Any other questions?
Yeah, I think building department is next.
I hope this chair is more comfortable than that other one.
They're the same chair.
When we get done with it, it won't be. No, just kidding.
New chairs.
Tell us your name.
I'm Nate with the building department. Okay,
Last name.
Davis, sorry.
It's on your agenda.
DAVIS.
Oh,
It's on the agenda. So I'm in the building department. We have almost the biggest department that presents today. 2 full-time employees, 1 part-time employee, and 1 part full-time employee.
Work full-time
So,
employee.
so Scott and I share an employee.
Oh,
Okay. So, the planner wanted more hours when he was part-time years ago. And we needed an inspector to see if we could make it work, see how much, and he was a plumber before he come into planning, so it was easy to get him certified. So that's why we have a part full-time employee. So we come out of our budget. So I'm not as good at jumping as others have been here, so I have to go straight down. I'm kind of autistic that way. I just gotta go in order. So if that's okay with you guys, if not,
You lead us.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, so let's all hold our questions till the end then, if that's okay.
So I'm just different that way.
You're good.
And I'm brash. I'm told I'm brash, so that's not to be offensive. That's just my personality, probably because I'm a building inspector.
Let's just call it
We'll get along
straightforward. That's a
great.
positive trait.
Okay, so we have shirts for 3 of us at $500. There's a few departments that have a shirt allowance. That's mostly those that are in the public often. We have a little city logo. The reason why it's a yearly allowance is if I take off my jacket, you'll see where it's torn already. And they just have to be replaced because of our work environment. We do have the embroidery done by Jones locally, so we try to do everything right out of that spot. Any questions on our shirt allowance? Okay, going to membership dues, or memberships and subscriptions. We have a membership with each of the 4 trades. So your building, plumbing, mechanical, and electrical. We have a membership within the state and within the International Code Council. And so those are their dues there. And like was said previously, usually our conferences are cheaper if we are a member. It's almost 6s either way, but once you're a member, then usually the second and third guy get a better price on the conference going out. You'll see those numbers coming through. If you want to know, somebody was asking about abbreviations. So the Utah chapter ICC is the Utah chapter of International Code Council for the building code. IAEI is International Association of Electrical Inspectors. And then ICC is the International Code Council. And then UAPMO is, they have the funniest one, Utah Association of Plumbing and Mechanical. So it's there. So New code books, every 3 years, they produce a new code cycle. We don't buy it when it first comes out because the state doesn't adopt it for a year. So you'll see that if you're in this committee for a longer amount of time, you'll see that number change year to year. And that's why sometimes it'll just be big and we'll just buy all 7 books at one time. And they range about $200 a piece. And for every new book, there's a new conference to go learn and say, hey, what's in this book? What's changed from the last time? So we can be better and more proficient. Like was stated before, the city pays for our state license when it has to be renewed. And for each inspector, that's different. It's because of when you started. So it's every 3 years, and depending on your date, we just have money in there to pay for that. And then certification for tests. So there's a comment earlier about paying, why does the city pay for certifications for employees? And that is an attraction. Because if they have to pay it themselves, when it's $290 and you fail it 3 times, that's $900 out of your own pocket, just like that. But when you have somebody helping you study and say, hey, let's get it done, let's get it taken care of, because you're no value to us without being certified, then it's quicker. And we give them a new book and we let them write in that book with their comments so they can better study for their certification to get it. We just had a person that we certified this last year and he left to a different county. Yeah, it burdens me, just in case you know, I'm still bummed. Okay, so in our trainings, you're gonna see all of the trainings there. And and they're all for different ones. So an average building inspector needs 90 to 120 hours of training per average per 3 years. For me, for example, to keep my CEUs, it takes me 60 hours of CEU training. So I get a tenth of a CEU per hour of training. So to keep my certifications up, I have to do 60 hours of training somewhere. And so you'll see those conferences. These that are listed are all Utah conferences. So that's what we would consider local, because there's very few even closer than that. And so none of these currently are out of state. Vegas has a nice one that has gone to some online training, because I know you asked that a lot. And there's some hiccups with it. They're trying to work it out. A lot of online training for building inspectors, they've gone away from, because you go in, you log in, and that's all they see you do. And so a lot of them are going back to personal. So you're there. They have the idea that you're going to soak in the information, even though they don't know you didn't do that online, right? When you're just listening and doing something else while you're taking a course. And so,
Never happens.
yeah, it never happens. And so, so there is that option. They're trying to tweak it for a little bit to figure out, how do we know these guys that came to the conference are really learning and understanding?
Not just a blue dot.
Yeah, you're just not. You're in the browser, but you're not doing anything else. All right, that's my favorite way to attend a Zoom meeting. I do it all the time. So, and so we have some money for office supplies, so that's a shared with everybody else here.
Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Just going back here real quick.
Okay.
On code books, how do you guys utilize the books? Is it you have one central place, and whenever you're doing something, you go and, okay, we're going to crack the book? Are you taking these on job sites? How do you utilize
Depends your
them?
age, can I be honest?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
depends your
totally.
age.
Okay.
We will buy the current code cycle that we need,
Right.
and then we'll put them in one location.
Okay.
And then depending on your age, well, depending on if you want to go to a book or if you can go to the iPad.
Okay. And so they do provide a digital version.
They
like
do
PDF
provide a
or whatever.
digital version, but it's not modifiable. You can't highlight it, you can't take notes. You
Okay.
can't say, hey, cross-reference here, like in your
Yeah.
book, you're gonna highlight, hey, here's this, and then you're gonna put page 22 is the other half of the problem. They have a digital subscription for that, it's $800 a month. But we're not ready for that.
And would anybody utilize it?
And are they gonna utilize it? So we do the book, and then when we go through these classes, we'll highlight and study that book and make all these cross references. And you still can remember easily, it's on the left-hand column highlighted in pink and it has this number. But on my digital version, when I
Yeah.
swipe it, I can't get that still.
Okay.
So I'm in between the number
Yeah.
2 pencil and my iPad stylus,
All right,
where we got guys that are just number 2 pencil.
okay, thank you.
He's the wrong age.
He's not one of those guys.
That's what we're saying. Good question. Great question. So they do have a free version. I use that often, but I have to Google my question to find it in the, does that make sense? It takes 2
Absolutely.
parts.
Yeah,
Where if you have the subscription, you can use the search bar
yeah,
and ask for it that way.
okay.
Is it worth $100 a month? Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
How big are these books?
They're like a 700-800 pound pay or 800 pound book. They're 800 pounds.
Your money's worth.
They're between 7 and 8. The big one is a 700 page for the building book. And then the plumbing and mechanical are slightly smaller. They're only 200 pages. So. And
If
you
you're
only
building a
can,
house, you gotta have it memorized.
yeah, and you only can order them from the one's place, that's the only publisher, right?
Yeah, it's like in a college book.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly like before. Same as the college book.
Sounds like a typical professional type book.
Yeah, it's,
In my world, it's the same.
okay. Yeah, so let's stop right there. Any questions on those items or above? Because that's gonna be the most, well, some of the most, those are physical things that we do. Okay. Postage, we have $400. That's for odd things when we have to, when we mail a plan out, instead of just an envelope, it just costs a little more. It's just a miscellaneous cost. We're mailing plans less and less. And so that you'll see that number probably continue to go down. But it's kind of a shared cost with the office supplies that we have there. We have, the plotter paper comes out of our office supplies. That's expensive. And we share that with a little bit with some public works. And it's just a shared cost to do that. Sorry.
What size paper are all your plans printed on? Is it like C size, D size?
In that plotter, it loads as a 36, which is an E size, but you can plot any of them and have it cut
Right.
if you need to. Most of the time we'll do a D size paper 24 by 36.
Can you scan something like that?
You can.
I
So
mean, do we have the ability
yeah,
to
it
scan?
has
Do
the
we have a
ability to
scan?
scan. Yeah.
So am I thinking that maybe you're going more toward, instead of mailing a plan, you scan it and email it?
Well, the only
Is that-
reason we would mail it is because the person wants the copy. It doesn't do the email thing. So it's a customer service item. No, because most everything we have come in now, you'll see later we have a cost for software. That's because everything's digitized in a cloud. And if they need it, we can easily email it. They can actually get into our system to grab it for themselves now to save us time, so we don't have to email it. But yeah, so if we're mailing some, it's because somebody that's a number 2 or slate and chip and slate doesn't
Customer
want
wanted
doesn't want an email. Yeah,
Thank
yeah, so that's what that's in there. Any other questions on before those? Okay, so motor lease, we have 3 vehicles for the inspectors. They stay here, they're used here. They go to training, and like for the first time, I get to like 50 miles an hour better twice a year when I go to a training. That's, other than that, they're really low on miles. They stay here in the city. They have more hours of run time than they do miles. So, and those are leased. They'll put money in that every year to pay for that. You'll see that common line item. It'll go up because the price of vehicles are going up, but it'll always be in there.
You need 3 of them.
We have 3 of them. We had 3 inspectors. And so that's why it's so in 2020, 2020 and 2021, we were so far behind in inspections, meaning that we couldn't reach the 72-hour deadline upon request, that we had to hire a new inspector to go to have 3, so we could be gone. 3 of us could be gone in 3 locations at each time.
Do you not need that anymore?
We're in that lull of the interest rate. It just jumped
Yeah.
and we had a nasty heavy winter. And so we will know within like 60 days.
Whether you only need 2 or whether you still need 3.
Yeah, what we're gonna have. So the third one is currently being borrowed by somebody else for a little while. We're paying for it and they're borrowing.
Another department.
Yeah, another department's borrowing it for a little bit. So it should, well, we could take that out right now. Make the budget look a little better. But, and those get turned around, between a year, 18 months, they'll turn them on. So, yes, sir.
On the subject of motor, I understand, at least I think I understand why the police department has dedicated vehicles, one per officer, and they don't share, et cetera. They don't drive their own vehicle to work. They take the police car to their home. I understand that for the presence of the police, but I'm not seeing that for building inspection. So I'm wondering maybe if there might be an opportunity to, instead of lease the vehicle, have the 3 vehicles here for the people that need to go, have them use their own vehicles and reimburse mileage, keep track, and that way
That would work really good, except for guys like me. My truck would make it to the inspection. I make it to work, and that's what I'm committed to in my HR contract, that I have a vehicle that gets me to work. But I'm not, and I don't personally, I wouldn't want to put on my hours, right? Driving around in my own vehicle, even if I got reimbursed. It doesn't have value to a person like me.
Government is usually the liability and all those other things for that. I think some part of it as well is that there should be a government vehicle, and that's just.
So,
You guys are probably like
but
taxis.
Dave has the best answer. He's a.
And the other thing about this $11,000 is there's a buyback program with the lease. So you see what we're paying out on these yellow sheets, but there's also on some other sheets where we bring money back in for the buyback. Like he said, they're very low miles, hardly used. And so what happens is we give them back to the leasing company, they sell those and we get the difference in those leases. And a lot of times it's straight across that we almost get that whole $11,000 back. Last year, we actually made more than the $11,000.
I remember when you went onto that program.
Yeah. So that's the trade across this. I mean, you see it here as $11,000, but we're actually bringing the money after we turn the leases in and we get the money back from those.
So where does that negative expense show up?
On the revenue side for the general fund.
Not in here.
Okay, going to computer services.
Before you leave, why was there 0 the year before?
Oh, that was because it wasn't put in there. So actually last year it was like 11,009.
It was put in a different.
So it's $600
Or
more.
something.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then, no, okay, so in AutoCAD and ESR yearly maintenance, that's for Gary with the planner reviewer. He does a lot of work for different departments. We have a master street map, if you've ever seen the map. He keeps that updated. He works with the planning department when subdivisions come in and we go from raw ground to a subdivision. That software, that's what we use for that. And that's a yearly subscription cost, you pay that per year. The satellite connection with the state of Utah, that's GIS. That's the mapping software we use to keep track of everything that's owned underground in the city. Water line, your sewer line, your storm water. That's our cost there. And Gary, the part-time employee, helps with that. Then you have your iWorks and your billing permit software. The billing permit software is your iWorks, and you have an extra add-on that we paid the $1,200 for. And we had tried a different software that was friendlier, and we needed some online capabilities. And we dumped that in, when we dumped that, Brad? October
For which one?
for MyGov?
I got, we dumped it, it was in June.
June, because it wasn't as friendly as it's supposed to. So we went back to our original software of iWorks, and they had, in the meantime, they had caught up to everybody else in their, what they offered on a portal for residents, and so that's where we're at. Yeah, it works better. I don't think we can be happy. Satisfied? Yeah, we're satisfied. Yep, we gotta tweak it a little bit, and we have a great, Dave has a great relationship with iWorks, because he's the pioneer user. And so we get a better rate than probably if we were to go out all brand new again, having no name, that would be really
So
hard.
that's 12 grand a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's our subscription. That takes care of, there's a cloud-based information on there where people upload their plans, which is not a small data percentage, right? And then they can use it from their portal, and then building inspectors can almost use it anywhere as long as there's internet, unless you're by your house or up in the cove where it's a little shady somewhere else.
Especially when using T-Mobile.
So, so that's their, we have cell phone and cell phone replacement. Ours is probably high in that cost because we damage them so much. They're always honest. And you're going through buildings or you drop it on the concrete, something happens. And we probably replace them every 18 months, pretty regularly. We crack a screen. Even if we have a otter box and everything we can to try to protect it, we still have that concern. Professional services, we have a little bit for to GIS when they update their software, so we can get caught up on what they've got to do. Engineering fees, similar, and then inspection services outsourced. This is for when multiple inspectors want to be off at the same time. Because we can't all be off at the same time, and we have to provide inspections within 3 days, that's what that absorbs. We don't always know what that's gonna be.
And oftentimes that's a conference that that's the only place to get their CEUs, so they're all have to be gone for
So if we're going that, then we have to bring somebody else to help the city do inspections.
Where does that somebody usually come from?
He usually comes from West Coast Consultants, WC3 out of Layton. His name's Cody Richards. He's been helping us the most. So. And and this isn't a contract, we just pay as we go. Because we don't use them really enough to get in a contract with them that we're on the first of their list. We just have to call them in enough advance notice when we know we're both gonna be gone, so we can get on their list to come help us. In 2020 and 2021, we probably used them 8 or 9 different times for 3 or 4 days at a time. So we try not to do it very often. It's quite expensive. Miscellaneous tools, that's going to be our tape measure, our level, things like that we do, just go do inspections. That's to replace stuff when it goes.
The 8-foot tape measure you used to.
Yeah, 8 foot. We had to go buy a new one for 11 foot. Benefits. Yeah, that'd be our tape measures. You know what that joke is, you can ask me. Safety equipment, this includes our hard hat, our safety vest, our safety boots. We do that helps with our insurance rate. So as things wear out, we have that to replace.
You're doing something more this next year than you did this year. What is that? It's $1,000 more.
Well, because I've changed sizes and I got to upgrade to newer safety equipment. Just in case you want to know, that's the answer.
We realized- Because we realized it wasn't in there.
Yeah, it wasn't there. And so, yeah, it's been modified. So I got to get a new safety equipment.
Happens to the best of us.
Well, I had to buy a treadmill too.
That's in the small equipment category.
Yeah. So you'll see services not classified, ours is relatively low. we don't have a lot of miscellaneous things coming in. We don't really try to pin down and know. So, any questions?
You do building inspections, and what else do you do? Just fill me in on what your department does.
So our department does plan reviews. So we keep almost all plan reviews except for a solar plan review in-house. We take solars out because their technology is changing so fast. We haven't had the manpower to send somebody to classes to go learn it and make sure that our life safety concerns are taken care of. So, and then we'll do building inspections from everything to changing a water valve up to your new apartments that are coming next to you. We'll inspect all of those and any of your
We don't
commercial
talk
things. Any of your commercial things we'll do. So, and then we have working heavily with the police station to try to keep but not just on the building side, inspection side, but on, hey, is this the best common sense thing to do still at this time? Like this morning, we argued about card access in the new police station, how, why, what, where, what hardware is needed, how do we keep the employees safe on this side of the police station, and how do we keep the detainees on this side? So there's a lot of things like that. And then I'm just for entertainment the rest of the time.
Well, honestly, I think the biggest thing is technology has advanced and they've kept up with it such that when you get an inspection, and this is 5 years ago, tick, 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 you had a list of things you had to go fix before you got your occupancy. You know, so to me, that's spectacular versus some of the other things I've seen. So I'm all for technology and paper. lists.
Yeah, the county next door, they just went last year from paper to wireless. They've been paper for that many years.
Just a real quick question.
Yes, sir.
On the small equipment list, computer terminal was $2,000 and iPads. Are you guys only using iPads now or?
We have both.
Okay,
We have both. We have a computer station at our desk, and our iPad usually goes with us to our inspections to function within our building permit software.
so as much adventure as your phones receive, do the iPads also get that kind of?
It's not as much.
Okay,
And I don't know, I don't have an answer why.
okay,
They're both on you at the
Yeah.
exact same time.
okay.
So, no, we don't replace the iPads due to damages often.
And yeah, is there any kind of like insurance plan or anything like, I know Apple has some plans where it's like, you do anything to it, you flush it down the toilet, we'll hook you up, but.
I don't buy them, so I don't know
Okay.
that. I just call the people and say, my phone's broke, that's why you can't get a hold of me.
Okay.
All of a sudden, a new phone shows up.
It's magic.
Yeah, it's like the magic coffee table, right? It's just like the magic coffee table. Know the magic coffee table? Oh, I'll show you.
Seinfeld.
Kind of funny.
Do you have to have the desk computer if you have your iPad, or could you eliminate the desk computer at some point?
If, I don't, not in the planner review side, if you go see my desk, you'll see that I have 2 TV sized monitors to look at plans simultaneously.
A workstation.
Yeah, your iPad's not gonna have that kind of power in it to function in that way. And I'm not much of a IT guy, but my computer's newer, so it can run 2 TVs. It's got 2 different video cards, and the processor's bigger, so we can function within that. And we do that's so we can do our plan reviews electronically, stamp them, and email them and get them out of there. So, and I have a lot of paper. If you come down, there's just as much paper as there is screen per inch. So.
Are the contractors pleased with our city when they work with us, do you find? Or are they aggravated with you, or?
They're just like everybody else. There's some on this side and there's some on that side, right?
Yeah, do they appreciate our response time, or?
It's getting better because it's slower. Yeah, in 2021, it was hard to help them.
Yeah.
It was very hard. We doubled our permit income in that per year. That's how many new homes. We went from a typical $500,000 a year to almost $1 million.
We could use a little slowdown, couldn't we?
Yeah, it'll help materials, it'll help labor, it'll help
Efficiency.
attitude, it'll help efficiency. Yeah,
Even things out.
we hope so, a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks, Dave.
thank you.
Just that part.
Can I be excused?
Good.
Good.
And then go into-
Dave, used to have any questions?
That's it.
Yeah.
Sorry, hold it down. Just quickly. Okay. Yeah. it's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Hey, John, you're up.
Oh,
It's you.
this is the council one. Okay. So there are not a lot of big things. So I'm piggyback on what we've already talked about. Utah League of Cities and Towns is at ULCT. That is a membership the city pays to get the training and have access to things. And then we also do the same with Weber Chamber of Commerce. It just provides us a connection to businesses and folks in the area.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
Is that for every council member?
That's total. It's a city
It's just the
$1,000.
city is assessed 13,000.
Oh, yeah, this is, yeah, just 13,000 for the whole city. And it's based on
And is that
population.
For paying lobbyists to what is that?
So
What's the
it,
value out of that?
the ULCT, the League of Cities and Towns, does a bunch of lobbying at the state level. They provide a lot of training resources, that sort of thing. Most cities in the state are members of their group. I think there's 2 cities that are, and I think West Valley is one of those that isn't a member currently. But essentially, it's kind of our organization of governments for the state.
The mayor mentioned before that there's possibility of having taxes shifted onto the municipalities. Do they prevent that from happening or try to
That's one of the things they try and do is work with the legislature to make
make
sure
sure
that
that doesn't slip through?
stuff that's passed is not as bad.
Yeah.
But stuff does still get through. I mean, we always joke the legislature is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Home Builders Association. And so there's a lot of stuff that ends up, that we pay for that the league can't fight off. So. And then public hearings, we don't usually end up spending this money, but we have it there in case we do. In fact, I'm trying to think the last time we had to do it because we do have to do some notices for the hearing or for the budget process, but not for anything else, like as far as paper and newspaper notices. We don't have to do a lot of newspaper notices anymore, and that's what this was mainly paying for. But there are some annexations and stuff come in through this type of a thing. This is essentially per council member, about $1,000 a year in training. That's for the league conferences that they attend. Office supplies kind of captures those odds and ends, including new nameplates, things like that, stuff for this room. The Zoom is what we're broadcasting on right now. We charge it to the council since it's a public.
Is that gonna, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Is that gonna possibly change coming up with the new software that you're using? or-
So Granicus doesn't have a public interaction feature where
Oh.
people can participate from home. And so I think we'll continue using Zoom for that reason.
Okay.
Which is why we'll also continue doing YouTube, is that you can do those 2 together at no additional cost. And so we'll probably just keep doing both. Cell phone and the cell phone purchase. This is for the tablets, and the mayor has a cell phone that's a city issued cell phone. And so these are the costs associated with that. This number we talked about last time is wrong. You can see the right number is over here, the $55,000 for the elections. That is something the county, because the way they mail it, if we did it in-house, we would still have a significant expense with mailed ballots and stuff. A good majority of the cost is because of the mailing of the ballots. And with the current climate, it's probably better on staff to leave it at the county level because they have a very robust counting system. And it used to be when we did it in-house, they would just bring all the envelopes into this room and they would count them. And I'm not sure that right now we'd want to subject anyone to being subject to
No.
that kind of scrutiny. And then the miscellaneous is kind of occasionally the council will send flowers to somebody or do something like that. And that's kind of the services not classified. We like to call it a contingency fund. If we need it, it's there. Because the way the state is wired and the rules for us, we cannot exceed this bottom line number without doing a budget amendment or we get in trouble. And so that gives us a little cushion for things that are unexpected.
So it dropped from 10,500 to 500?
Yes.
What changed?
I'm trying to remember what we took out.
I don't remember.
This actually might have been where the minutes for the council used to be.
Yes.
Oh,
You're right.
okay.
You're right.
And so the 10,000 got moved into the recorder's budget. So that's what other questions?
So.
What made the budget be so from last year to this year?
Election.
Elections.
Oh, the election,
Yeah.
okay.
Every other year we do elections.
Very good.
What was, I guess we probably have to go back some years, but what was it before we had mail-in ballots?
It depended on the year. If you do a primary election, it's the same as doing another election. So because it's a cost per sending out ballots. So it's $27,000 to send out ballots. If I go back to my first memory, I think the first time the county did it for us, it was 10 or 12 grand election. And then it's gone up since then.
So I don't know, I guess I'm not a fan of mail-in ballots, but that's just me. I don't see that that's a great value. But is it postage? I mean,
So they charge us $2.25 for every ballot they send out, and we have roughly 12,000 registered voters in the city. This year, we probably will see this come down a little bit because the fire district is also doing an election. So assuming they actually do an election, then the cost we'll split that with them.
Sure.
But the time before when they had an election, they only had one person declare for the one seat or two for the two seats. And so they didn't have to hold an election because the two folks. So we always encourage involvement, but if you want to help us save some money, run for the fire board. So they have to do it. I'm just kidding.
The one question might be for Jamie is the fact that when you do have an expense and it's, I don't say in the gray area, instead of going back to the council for a budget change, is there, I mean, I guess I'm trying to figure out how much wiggle room that you technically have to.
There isn't a whole lot of wiggle room.
Okay.
That
Service is
service
not
is not
classified.
classified.
Well,
That's
yeah.
pretty much it, and
But-
it is
but-
different
Yeah.
for each department. And again, like what John said, it's that bottom line number in each department that matters. It's not
Okay.
necessarily the line items. So you'll see, if you do go back and look at the budget, you'll see maybe line items are a lot more than other line
Yeah,
items, but we don't want to move. So let's say we needed more office supplies, then we needed small equipment. And we didn't use anything in small equipment and it all went to office supplies. We don't want to move office supplies down into small equipment, because then next year when we go to budget, we'll say, we use so much office supplies, why? If we were to move it to small equipment, we would assume it's small equipment. So we try to keep the line item simplified, but it's that bottom line that matters.
The bottom, the total
The
department
total
budget.
department matters.
But and it's mostly documentation for the future.
You know, like you'll see an amendment next week. Bryce's department, their printer went down, and he doesn't have any wiggle room in his office supplies. And so we have to do a small budget amendment for his department for that. And it's a $700 item, you know, so,
Take up the council's time with that. yeah.
well, because we're already there, we're including it. But, you know, so those are the things we have to consider when we're planning out a whole 12 months. They're hard to anticipate. So.
Anyone else?
I think that's was gonna say, I know Katie and Bryce really want to make sure we go over their stuff today. So,
I'm dying to go over.
Yeah.
Get ready to be.
Come on up,
Sounds
Katie.
like you don't have to wait any longer.
Great. Okay, well, I think I met most of you, but I'm Katie, but I haven't met, so nice to meet all of you. Do you want me to go through each line, or do you want to have specific questions? How do you want to, what works best for all of you?
So I don't want to keep everyone's forever.
Mhm.
And so I would anticipate people are most likely going to want to talk about personnel related costs.
Okay.
Because the postage and a lot of the things you see are the same, similar things that you've seen in the past, but that's probably the biggest change for your department. Would be my guess.
Sure. All right, well, we'll go through this quickly, and then if you have any questions, just let me know. So we have annual labor law posters that we're required to have up. So we pay an annual fee for those. Those go for all of our buildings. And what that does is if there's any changes, we're notified and we get new labor law posters. So that's just a requirement that we have to do. The next, we've got employee of the month, and this is for, we're not currently doing it this year. This is something I want to implement for next year, but the goal is to do a $50 gift for that employee and then a plaque. And the plaques are usually about $30 to $35. So I'm guessing about $1,000 for that program.
This will be citywide.
That is citywide, yes. The next we have our awards and plaques, and this is for the Employee of the Year awards. This is for our peak awards, which are the performance awards that are given at the end of the year during our holiday party. And then also the service awards, which are given again at the end of the year. And those are for employees who have been here in years of 5, so 5, 10, 15, 20, so forth. So that's just a rough guesstimate based on what we had this year. We have, looking at our list, we have less service awards next year. So it should be a little bit less, but just wanted to keep it roughly about what we've been paying.
Why do you have less?
Just because we do them every 5 years, and so we have a lot of people that haven't hit that mark. So
You look ahead and you can
Yes.
see.
yeah. Yep. Let's see. So the peak awards, each employee, we do 2 peak awards, 1, sometimes 2, and that's $350 per employee. So that's the $700 for that, and that's awarded at the end of the year. And those are the nominations from the mayor and the council. And then the department heads that nominate those employees. We have the Employee of the Year awards. So those are 5 Employee of the Year awards, and those are $100 each. Let's see, we have a blood drive incentive. This is just kind of a hit and miss. Sometimes our blood drives get filled up pretty quickly in North Ogden. Sometimes they don't, so we try to incentivize our employees. If we have a couple extra spots, hey, sign up, we'll put your name in a drawing and you get $25 if your name is drawn. So that's what that one is. Employer recognition, am I going too fast? Okay. Employer recognition, we've got that for $3,000. And this goes to, all of our employees get a $10 gift of something that they enjoy, like a treat. This year we're doing a place that they enjoy, grabbing a lunch in the city. So still going to be in the city, but it's something they enjoy. We have quarterly socials that we try to hold either here at this building, we hold it over at Public Works. We used to do it at our Parks and Recreation office, and then at our police station. And those have been really, really successful. It's been a lot of fun since I've only been here a little over 2 years, but as we have these, they increasingly get more busy and more people are coming, and it's just fun to kind of get to know your coworkers and show them that they're appreciated. So, and then we have gift cards throughout the years. Again, we just had 2 police officers that were a call to a domestic situation. The mom and the little girl didn't have a place to go. 2 of our officers got paid with their own money, got them a hotel room for the night. So we gave them a gift card to go to dinner, take their family to dinner. So those are kind of the things that we use those for, something that somebody that's going above and beyond. So those are those. Let's see. So we've got employee jackets and hoodies. Those actually don't come out of mine. Those go to non-departmental, but we try to buy, I think Aaron's wearing it, but we have the
I've got a
hoodies.
shirt on.
Yeah, so we've got Carhartt hoodies, or we've got some jackets that we get for the employees that we give out every December during our holiday party. And that's what that fee is. But that, again, that doesn't come out of my department, so, or my budget.
The holiday party, that's probably our biggest expense. This is once a year, this is over the holiday season, it's our employees and their significant other. We have the dinner at the timber mine. That's where we give all of our award presentations. Again, really, really nice for people to be able to bring their spouses or, their significant other just for a special night. So the cost did go up quite a bit from this year, from the year before. We went up about $600, $500, I think is what it was. So we're anticipating the inflation going up again. I'm hoping it's not 8,200, but that would count for what the cost went up this year. So
Yeah, restaurants.
Yeah.
How many city employees are there?
So we have 94, and that includes all of our council and our planning commission. So, and we honestly, we have almost everybody attend, so it's a really good turnout. And then we do buy gift cards for the police officers that are on shift that can't come to the dinner. So that's included in that cost.
Yeah, we typically get like 140 to 150 people there, which is, I mean, that's just about everybody comes. And not everyone brings a person with them, a guest. And so we really end up with a good group.
Yeah, it's a really nice turnout. Let's see, summer party, we do 1,200. So the rest of those funds, we have a summer party that's usually held over at the aquatic center. And that's for employees and all their families, their kids, things like that, grandkids. Most of the funds come from our employee social fund, which employees donate to. So we pay $7 a month each employee. And that's the majority of what covers that. But I do pay out of my budget for the food. So last year we were quite a bit under that, the $1,200, but again, with cost of food, you never know where that's going to go. So the Halloween party, we have a luncheon for Halloween where everybody can choose to dress up if they choose to. So we do a luncheon, which we try to stick to about $6 a person for that luncheon. And usually it's stuff we get from Lee's, and like make sandwiches or soup, something like that. And then there is an error on here, right? So the Halloween costume prices, so we do $100. We have a first prize winner that's 50 and then 2 25s. So that's $100 for that. We have a bowling for turkeys, which is now not turkeys because it used to be in November, but now we've switched it to the spring. So it's a team building exercise.
Bowling for buddies.
That's good. It was bowling for gold last year, but bowling for bunnies, that could be a good one.
Did it
But-
eat a rabbit instead of a turkey?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, the idea was if you get a turkey, we'd buy a frozen turkey, but no one ever got a turkey. So maybe we should give them bunnies. I got some at my house.
We do have some. But again, it's just another it's a fun team building exercise. Everybody comes, it's, our officers stop by if they're on, they, run over, and it's just a fun event. So, and then we have our ACA federal e-filing, which is the Affordable Care Act, and that was $425 this year. So that went up about $30 to $40 from last year. That's mandatory that we file every year. And then, like Jamie, my computer has hit its end, so I do need a new computer this year. And I'm in the process of scanning all of our past employee personnel files along with our current personnel files. And so our IT guy, Jason, has found a scanner that would be helpful for that. So those are the two small equipment fees.
At first blush to me, this seems excessive.
Okay.
And my question is, do we need to have this many parties? And I've never been in a company that had a third of this many things, and that's why I was wondering.
Yeah, no, I understand exactly what you're saying. For me personally, when I came into this position, we had a lot of negative feelings in the city. We had there wasn't a really high morale in the city. And I'm not saying that was me that brought it in, but
Didn't that come from a survey? Didn't they survey?
we
the
did do a
employees?
survey, and there was a lot of morale issues where people wanted to feel appreciated and things like that.
Yeah.
So we try to do annually. I mean, if you think about it, we do one get together every 4 months, or, so it may look excessive, but it's a half an hour. Like we did cheese with the chief, and we had a bunch of cheese platter, and,
You think you're getting the value out of
I
it?
do think we're getting the value out of it. Yes.
And it ends up being about, I mean, with all of this, it's less than $200 a year for each employee. And a good example is in the police department right now, we haven't had an officer turnover in 8 months. And that in itself would pay the 17 for the whole city. Yeah, I know,
And also last
yeah.
year,
So,
we were coming out of COVID,
Mhm.
and I think everybody was hungry for that connection.
Yeah.
So last year, or this last year, it's been really, really, really helpful.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing is I've been to many different companies and you get, the bigger you get, like you said, I mean, I used to be Tier W, got bought up by Northrop, but yada, yada, yada. They had, you know, like Turkey, it would be a Turkey. All of these things started vanishing away the bigger the company got. And, you know, they didn't get like, you know, in the break rooms, they started taking away utensils. You didn't even have any salt, or there's no dishwashing liquid for the, I mean, like, holy crap. So you know, me as a citizen, I'd rather have people more, and retention problems too,
Mhm.
is that 20, less than 20 grand to retain, you know, what'd you say, 90 people?
94, yeah.
Or give or take, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know. Because I started, now I'm working for a smaller company and holy crap, what the difference is. Night and day. You know, I think that's
Yeah.
part of the, I don't say the, it fixes a lot of problems.
Well, and honestly, I would love for you to come to one of our events. I mean, it's really fun. We had, I'm not gonna say his name, but we had an employee who started, you know, kind of roughly after I started, and he was very quiet. He would sit in the back corner with his plate of food. He didn't socialize with anybody. And now he's in there with everybody, talking to people about their jobs. It's just a really nice way for people, like Jamie said, to connect with one another, to get to know what everybody's doing. Because like, I'm in this building, I don't know what's going on a lot over at Public Works or at Parks. And so it's fun to have everybody together and kind of share what they're doing, what's going on in their life, in their job. And not just in their job, but at home, what's going on in their life that's meaningful. So.
Does the employee of the month thing, is that meaningful, or is that something that kind of just gets rotated around to all the employees?
No, so the idea with this is we get people that will send an email saying so-and-so did this, that went above and beyond. I'd like to recognize them.
Mhm.
And so the idea is, I don't want it to be, and John and I have talked about this, we don't want it to be mechanical to where it's, okay, this month it's Parks and Rec, and this month it's this, and you know,
Yeah.
I want it to be somebody's actually nominating that person for a specific
For a
reason.
good reason.
And actually giving it a title, like John kind of had an idea, you know, we had a big issue with our sprinklers this summer. And we had a couple of our parks and public works guys out there fixing them and getting them going, and that was a nomination. And so John, what was your comment, like sprinkler? I don't know, something goofy, but it was just like, it was fun to say, okay, you fixed the sprinklers, you were acknowledged, you know, you saved the city a bunch of money by doing this. That kind of thing is what we're going for, so.
Yeah. As this list, sometimes you have a list like this and then you add something and nothing ever gets taken off. Are there any things that kind of duplicate, or you could reduce that down, or is that kind of where you think you need to be?
I mean,
I was gonna say, we've taken some stuff off over the years.
Mhm.
But a good example is like the holiday party used to be about $4,500. But what happened is people started enjoying being around each other. And so it went from 80 people showing up
The
to
attendance.
140, right?
Yeah.
And so
That's a positive thing.
it's a
yeah.
positive thing,
Yeah.
but it also
It's tough.
hits the books hard. But so, and I don't, we've always talked about moving stuff around. I don't,
I mean, if you had suggestions, I definitely would like to hear suggestions. For me personally, I feel like this list is not minimal, but it's minimal in what we're getting from our employees. I think people are, and I don't know exactly what it was like before I got here, so I can't say, but I know people are happy.
Yeah.
I know people enjoy being
Staying
around
on.
other people.
Yeah.
So for
I
me,
mostly asked to get you guys to think
Yeah.
about it.
but I mean, if you
I
had
don't have an
suggestions.
opinion. you
No,
know,
but I
it's
mean,
a-
if you did
Well,
have
you're
something-
thinking of just like a social once a quarter, which I don't think is excessive. And you're trying to invest in morale,
Yeah,
and hopefully you'll get returns back and happy employees that want to stay.
Right.
sounds like we already have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we've got good
returns.
employees. We've
Yeah.
got really good employees. Really good team, so.
Good job.
Thanks. Any other questions?
We did, everyone?
We got more. Okay.
Hey,
Cool,
thank you.
thank you.
Katie. Right.
All right. Got 3 minutes.
That's probably the most exciting. Just kidding.
Because
So,
you're the most modest, right?
yeah. So the biggest things that you guys are probably interested in is the subscription to memberships and the travel and
Can I
training.
ask before you start, what is your scope of operations?
That's a great question. So I'm the city treasurer. I'm also the administrative services manager. What that entails is the front desks or basically customer service at the city for Public Works, Parks now, and City Hall here. I help oversee that and manage it. I do the phones. I do, if you come to the counter, I help with that. I also help with the back end on the building permits. I help with a lot of the different softwares the city uses. I also just help fill in wherever's needed. I'm sort of, I guess I call myself a jack of all trades. I'm pretty
A vice of
flexible. I
all
can jump pretty easily anywhere that's needed. Yes.
How big is your staff?
So we have 8 with 5 here, and I have 1.5 at Public Works, and we're hoping to hire another part-timer. We're starting to fall. There's some work that's being missed that we're trying to fix. So there's 8 of us total. Like I said, we cover parks, building, do some front counter work for like planning. We're the sort of the front office, so.
The ones that meet the public.
Yep.
The face of the city.
So, but yeah, so and along with those things, as you'll see in here with our, travel and training and subscription and membership, because we cover such a broad amount of things, we do have quite a bit of different trainings that we go to try and be informed and up to date on everything. As well as John has quite a few of his trainings that fall into my budget as well. But I mean, hopefully it's all pretty self-explanatory. So like I have my wastewater for, I started in the sewer department. So that's a certification I maintain because it does benefit the city to have more in what's called the DRC for the sewer system. So I'm knowledgeable enough that if something happens, I can help with it.
And it turns into kind of that redundancy you asked a question about before with Jamie. How do we have backup if something happens? And this is one of those things. There's a few folks like this where they've left the department and we've kept certifications alive for that reason.
People don't tolerate sewers very long.
Right.
Very long. I think about 5 minutes in.
And then we also have, the business license. Colleen takes care of all that, and she falls into this category. So that's most of our memberships, and then our trainings a lot of them are for the softwares we use. So you saw iWorks and building.
Can I stop? The ICMA stands for what?
International City Managers Association. That's my group that I participate with.
Now, what caused it to go up 67% this year?
It was combining stuff into one because we pulled from Public Works. But so the people in Public Works used to be in the Public Works department and we've now pulled them in. And so by combining it in, it shows an increase.
They have to go get trained and stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, and then travel and training. So a lot of that is Cassell, our accounting software. We want our staff to be, as up to date as they can be with that. That is anything cash coming into the city is what goes through that. So we try to make sure, and plus Cassell is always updating and new things, and anything that they release that benefits the city, we want to make sure that we're trying to incorporate that in what we're doing. And their conference is probably the most expensive, one of the more expensive ones in my budget, but it's worth it because Cassell touches almost everything in the city. And there's so many different applications and so many different people use it. So let's see, we have building permit training, which is not the building inspections, but this is like the technician side. So hopefully that'll help us understand when people come and give us plans, we know, and that'll save time for the inspectors. So when they're reviewing them or planning, when they're reviewing it, we know what to look at for before they get it, so they don't have to take time to try and get things that should have come in to make it a complete application. Yeah, and then all the, there's a lot of other city manager stuff.
John, can you scroll up a little bit on
Yeah.
that? Thanks.
So our office supplies, that budget is going up. This is one we probably were struggling to meet our budget for this year. And some of that is because when we split budgets, there was some, I think, habits in place of different departments ordering things, going to one person to order. And so I'm trying to track down that and make sure I manage that well, to make sure, for example, recorders, HR, we all used to be the same. You know, last year's budget, we were all one. So there's been some things as we go through, hopefully this year, next year, we'll be able to have a good idea of what that number actually is for our office supplies. It's a lot of it's paper, envelopes. We go through a crazy amount of Post-it notes. Not that they're expensive, but like little things like that, they do add up over a year's time for us.
So, and just for other people that are vacation, it was 3,500 2 years ago. So that means that, you know, they went down and then they're.
Well, so that 3,500 is when we were combined.
Oh, okay.
My budget is basic, I guess, the main branch, and then when we split,
Recorder.
I have the main one still, so that's why you see that number.
Okay.
And yeah, and then we have subscriptions. We have Google Commercial and Adobe. Those are for different document management, different things for John. You know, he goes through a lot of different documents, helps him organize them and edit them as he needs.
And like the Google commercial, Katie and I share that account so that we're officially paying for the software we're using, so that we're not violating a rule there. And really, it's Katie uses it and I have access to, so.
And then we have 2 cell phones in my department. So John Paul has a cell phone and I have a cell phone.
2 or 3, it says 3.
So the third one is in case we ever have to have anyone work from home. So basically what they'll do is they'll do it from their cell phone. They'll log into the app from their cell phone, but we want to make sure that we are compensating them for that. So it doesn't really get used a lot, but we want to make sure the money's there if we need it. Because the phones are important and we do have times where we do get close to needing someone from home to probably log in if they can. Okay, services not classified. So mine, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Obviously, John has a pretty big part there for his contingency. Mine, with my staff being in a lot of different buildings and different places, I do try and do something a quarter for just our team. Because even though we're all in different locations, if emotions get high or something and we're not all liking each other, the phones get thrown around a lot. And so I like to make sure I keep everyone happy and also talk about training. It's also a good time for me to, if there's any corrections that need to be made for the whole department, it's a good time. Because my whole department only sees each other once a quarter. When Katie does something, we all try and get together then too. And then anything else, like for example, this budget year, me and John both ended up getting new cell phones. And so that this fund helped to cover that cost because we don't always know when that's going to happen. And then small equipment, you'll see the printer up there. We did include it in here. We were really hoping to make it to July and we didn't. So that's been purchased and there'll be a budget amendment for that. And the cell phone, I thought we would make it till July on that one too, but we didn't make it either. So both of those came out this year and they'll be in, so those will be taken off for next year's budget. Any questions?
This is the department that has the largest increase over the year before. Doubled. But, yeah. So if this is from stuff coming in from another department,
So-
where are we saving the money? In other words, it should have come out of something and made it less. Which department would that be in?
You'll see. It's the price ones, right?
Go ahead, John.
So I was gonna say, a big chunk of this is me and my fault. A good example is I've never had that $5,000 contingency there before. But what routinely happens during the year is we say, oh, we need this, we need this, we need this. And so that's intended to be kind of that ability to say, okay, well, this is a city manager approved expense. We can categorize it where it goes, but we've budgeted for the money here. And then in a future amendment, we'll move it. So that sounds funny to say it that way, but that's one of the biggest changes here. And then some of it from previous years was capturing everything we did for training. Because with our combination of things, the training stuff got shuffled around and we lost track of some of those things. Bryce's position is only 18 months old. It's a newer position for the city. And so it's kind of one of those departments that's flexing and growing a bit. But I would honestly say most of the increases are probably because of the city manager being brought in and all of, being an attorney and all my trainings, it's expensive. So,
John, can you give us some examples of this, and this from that 5,000? Like in the past, it's been things like.
so it's been, well, a good example would be like the printer, we thought we'd make it till next year and we didn't, so we bought it. Monitors. And what I mean is like, so we bought monitors for planning and building, Nate mentioned he had those big monitors on disc. Those were kind of those type of contingency things. And then what we ended up doing is after we knew the money was there and is authorized only by me. And then we do a budget amendment and roll it into the department. So this number goes down and that department's number goes up to just, unless it's something for the admin department, in which case we just leave it here. But it's most years, it hasn't been a significant impact, but with what we're seeing for IT and things lately, we're starting to spend a little bit more unexpected on IT than we've had to in the past.
That was the example I was gonna use. For example, our firewall, we had to renew it. Luckily, we were able to get a 1-year renewal, but it was gonna be a $5,000 expense that I don't think we had necessarily planned on, at least that much. And so this fund helps to cover that, because we have to have the firewall, because of all the servers and everything we have. So it just helps to cover things like that.
Just with that, once the firewall's installed, is there somebody maintaining it?
Yes.
Actively, or?
Yeah, so we contract with a company called TechServe.
Okay, all right.
He comes out a couple hours a month. As well as I'm starting to learn some of that so I can do some of that.
Cool.
Nice.
I'll have to say, every person that I've been in contact with in the city, has always been very helpful and friendly. So I think you're doing what you need to do there.
Thank you.
So
They look happy, that's for sure.
I can't remember, it was a couple meetings ago where we were talking about Costco or Sam's or whatever, buying some of the, is there like bulk stuff that you do for the office supply stuff, or is that?
A lot of that we do buy from bulk, and we're able to get it from like Office Depot.
Okay.
So like a lot of it we already can get in bulk, and we just have it mailed here or shipped here.
Yeah.
So we do that quite a bit. We haven't, this year I've tried to challenge my employees more to compare prices so that we're not just doing what we've always done. We're trying to shop competitively for anything that will deliver, because that doesn't cost us any time. And if there's money to be saved there, we'll look at that.
You just make up new emails and then you get that 10% off. it.
Well, and one thing I'm not sure that we've mentioned to the group before, but we get to piggyback on all of the state contracts. So we get the same pricing the state of Utah gets. So we pay, the cost per paper ream is quite a bit lower than what you'd buy it for off the shelf, because the state buys 1 million reams of paper a year or whatever it is. So, so there's things like that we get as a benefit just because we're a state subsidiary.
But I think, and that might go to HR too, is that if there is a cost savings that some employee does come up with, is there it could be another, I don't know, I guess I'm coming up with another expense, but that could be something as well, is that, because I know the government has that, if they have in the government, that they would submit something that would actually get part of the savings back. to that, and I don't remember what that was.
Usually I stand up in front of my team and congratulate the person.
So the peak award that Katie talked about,
Yeah.
that one is geared to those people who do significant savings of
So that could
of
be-
sorts.
Yeah.
The idea is that we're recognizing those people looking for innovative ideas. One year, some folks got it for rebuilding the stairs at the pool. And they saved us a bunch of money and they created something. Was that what they got it for that year, Dave?
That's 1 year.
And then another one was the inventory for water line.
Yeah. So just, there's things like that that we've done. Yeah, our water director recognized pipe prices were gonna go up at the beginning of COVID, so we bought a whole bunch of pipe we knew we were gonna need and saved. I think we figured 150.
Yeah, it was over $100,000.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Well, pipe is just doubled in price.
So crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was. Yeah. But, so we don't have a specific program that has a percentage if you save money, but the hard thing with that is if you do that, then sometimes people question the motive behind it. If it was a straight percentage, for example, the city,
Yeah.
we just got a pretty big grant from the
Yeah.
county. And if any employee got that as a percentage, that would be very, it would be rough to have to write someone a check for, even 1%.
Well,
of
the
the-
building supplies and things have come down after, they went up so high, but then they've come down again. So it's not necessarily the purchaser's good works, it's the market.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions for Bryce? Thank you, Bryce.
Yeah.
I, for one, are impressed with our department heads.
Yeah, yeah, thank you all very much. Do you happen to have the list of who will be at the next meeting? It's,
It's probably the other.
so will it be April 5th? I think that's,
It'll be April 5th and it is, sorry, I'm going back in my sheet here.
just Dave,
Just
April 5th should be the chief.
just Dave?
I think it's enterprise, or is it parks and,
thought it was enterprise.
So it's enterprise and part of the rest of general fund, which is big,
okay,
streets and public works.
and then
PD, I don't know.
PD and parks is the last, or not the last, but after that one,
After, okay.
so.
Is it the 5th? Is that what you
Yeah.
said?
So it'll be
Passover.
the 5th, 3 o'clock, and Dave will entertain us.
Dave will entertain us.
And we'll there'll be another batch of supervisors here that have expertise in water, sewer, inspection. It's we really do have a good batch of people here, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Adjourn?
Meeting